Hi everyone. In this video, we are going to discuss how to perform mouse actions in Selenium. Apart from the single left click, we do have different mouse actions. Those are double click, right click, mouse over operation, and drag and drop. Now, let us see how to automate these mouse actions using Selenium WebDriver. So let me take an example. You can see here, right click one button and double click need to see alert, right? So first let us see double click. You see this button, right? So when I do a left click, one single click, so nothing happens. And if I try to do right click also, nothing happens. So you can see this context, right? This is coming from the browser. But if I do double click, so double click, left click, right? So then you see an alert here, right? So this is what we call it as a double click. Now let us see how to automate this. So first we need to inspect this element, and even before that we need to navigate to this URL. So you can see here I already created a class, and I set the Chrome driver to the Chrome executable, created a WebDriver instance and instantiated to the Chrome driver, so that the Chrome browser window gets open and I maximize the browser window. Now we'll navigate to the particular URL, and then we'll locate this element. Double click me to see alert, right? So this is a button. We can locate this element using XPath. Driver.find element by.xpath button, right? And we want it. So let's actually store this button in a web element object, as find element is a method which returns see web element. Let's save this in a web element object. I'll call this as, this is a double click, right? Okay, I'll just call this as a double click button. Now, how do we actually perform the double click? Usually when we locate a web element, right? So when we wanted to click on that, we just use this web element dot click. So click is a method of web element, right? Now, how do we actually do this double click? So in that case, not only double click, so for any mouse action, we wanted to perform any mouse action, then we need to use a class called actions class. So I'm going to create an actions class object now and pass the WebDriver to it. So this we need to know. And actions class, if you observe, so this is coming from the Selenium interactions package. So this is a package where the actions class is present. And using this object, right, object of actions class, we can actually perform all the mouse actions, as it has the different methods. Now we are going to see that actions dot actions is there. Now actions object, see when I do dot, right, so you see different methods here which can be used to perform different mouse operations. Now we wanted to perform double click, so double click is a method. You can see double click, right? So double click, you can see again two methods here, one with no arguments and another is taking the web element as a parameter, right? So now, so double click, when you see when you actually use the double click method, right, it just double clicks on the current mouse location. But if you wanted to double click on some web element, then we should be using double click web element and pass the web element as the parameter to the double click method. So this is my parameter, right? So web element. So pass this. And after that dot, we need to, and if you observe here, before that, let me show you something. I use double click method, right? So it is written in actions class object. So which means that I can still use dot, I can still use another operation or another mouse action here. See, when I do dot, you see different mouse actions again, right? So we can actually do a series of actions like this. So for now, we are only doing double click dot. Now, once we are done with this, we should be using build method. So build is a method which will is a method which actually generates the composite action for all the series of actions in this chain. As I said, so you can have any number of actions here, right? And once you are done, you should be using the build method, which actually generates the composite action for all this method, for all these actions. Then dot perform is a method which actually performs the actual action, right? So again, you can see here. So build is actually, it is coming from the action interface. So you should notice the difference. Actions is a class, action is an interface. So this interface has a method called build. And what does this method do? It actually generates the composite action for all the series of actions. And finally, we have to use the perform method. So you can see perform method returns nothing, right? So this will be the final method we should be using to perform the mouse action. So once we do this once we actually use this perform method, the actual action will be done, right? So now let us execute and verify. It maximized, and now you can see, yeah, double click and you can see this alert, right? So even if you want, you can actually capture this alert and display the message what the alert is returning, right? Switch to dot alert dot get message or get text, right? So this is the alert message, or double click alert message, right? So you can see that now, though we are not either accepting or dismissing the alert, we just wanted to double click on the button and you see the alert here, right? So, and we wanted to print the message which is displayed on the alert box, right? So this is how we can actually perform a double click operation. Now let us see how to perform the right click operation. Right click. I can just comment these two lines and we are going to see the right click operation. So in the same URL, right, same web page, we do have the right click as well. So you see a right click button here, right? So what is right click? If I do a single left click, so nothing happens. See, if I do double click, nothing happens. But if I actually do a right click, see, I'm getting some options here. So this is what we call it as a right click. So we do right click and we get the context wise menu options. So that's what we use a right click for, right? Now we wanted to automate this. We wanted to locate this button, right click me button, then right click this button like this and look at all these options, or you can even perform some of the operations also here. This will be a normal locating the web element and clicking on this, any of these options. See, another alert will be displayed here like this, right? So first let's locate this right click me button. I click copy XPath. We can use find element by dot XPath. And let's again same. Let's actually have this stored in some web element object. This is right click, right? So right click. I'll call this as right click button. Now we have the right click button. What we wanted to do, we wanted to perform the action, right click action. So again, like actions object dot. So we'll be using a method called context click. So context click is a method which is used to actually perform the right click mouse action, right? So again, context click again has two methods. One doesn't take any arguments. The second one takes the web element as the argument on which you wanted to right click, right? Dot build dot perform. And also I wanted to show you something. So you don't even need to use build here. So if you observe, perform is a method which actually does the build as well. So when we call build method, it inbuilt, it actually calls the build method and then actually calls the perform method. You can actually uh, check that. So hold the control key and if you see perform, right? Okay, let me attach the source. All right, I actually attach the source and you can see the perform method here. So you can hold the control key and do the left click, you can see the perform method. So perform method actually is doing build, and then it is calling the perform method. So we don't need to use the build explicitly again, right? All right. So this is how we actually can click the do the right click operation. Right now, let us execute and verify. See, it right clicked on that button, so we are getting this option. And if you are actually interested, we can actually automate these elements as well. Say for example, if you wanted to click on this cut or copy, right? So how do you do that? You want to inspect these elements, so just do function F12. You can't actually do right click here. So you can actually click right click and select, click on any of these options, you get an alert here, right? So if I select cut here or paste, you see clicked paste, right? So now we wanted to automate this, select any of this. Let's say for example, I wanted to select copy. So inspect copy element, driver dot find element, and we wanted to click on that. I'm executing the code now. So it has to right click on the button and then it has to click on the copy. See, it clicked on the copy. That's the reason you see an alert clicked copy, right? So this is how we can actually do a right click mouse action, right? Now let us see the next one. What's the next one? So you see here, next one is mouse over. Okay. Let's actually see the mouse over operation now. For that, let me create a new class. I'll call my new class as mouse over action. And I'm going to copy this 3 lines. So the first line, we have set the Chrome driver property and we have set it to the Chrome executable, created a WebDriver object and instantiated to the Chrome driver instance so that a Chrome browser window gets open and it is maximized, right? Now let us see an example first. Let me show you what mouse over is. So you can see here, right? Products, developers, these are the menus. So if you see here, I didn't do a right click or a single click here. But when I mouse over on this element products, so I'm getting some options here, see? And I can choose any of these options. Say for example, I wanted to choose live or automate, then I can hover on that and do a single click. Then the automate page will be open, right? So this is what we wanted to automate now. This is what we call it as a mouse over. So I didn't perform any action like left click or right click, double click, but I'm just hovering my mouse here. The cursor has been hovered on this products element and we are getting the option. So how to automate that we are going to see now. So for that, let us take this URL first, driver dot get. We'll navigate to this URL, then not automate. So it has to be this. Then we need to locate the products element, right? So let's inspect this. Let's use selector sub, driver dot find element, by dot xpath. All right. So this is the element, right? Now we wanted to mouse over on this web element. So what we'll do is we'll store this into a web element object. I'll call this as, this was products menu, right? So let's call this as products menu. And again, this is a mouse action. So we definitely need to create a actions object and pass a WebDriver to it. Pass a WebDriver object to it and use this actions object to actually call the respective method. We just need to know which method to actually call for the respective action. What's the action now? Mouse over. So we need to use the move to element. Move to element and the target element. What's the target element? Move to element products menu is my target element, right? So you can see target element is products menu. Move to element is the method which we need to use to mouse over. Okay, I actually mouse over on this. Then what I wanted to do, I wanted to mouse over on automate again. See, still I'm mouse overing on the automate. Only then I can click on that automate option or the sub menu option, right? So we need to inspect this automate as well. Let's do function if tool on this. And look at the element. So this element, automate element, right? This is the one. You can ignore this alert in the selector sub. It just says the element is not visible. So the options are visible only when you mouse over on the products menu. So once you come out of that, see, that will not be displayed. That's the alert selector sub is saying. So you don't need to worry on that. Just copy the XPath and then put it here. Driver dot web element. Sorry, driver dot find element by dot XPath. This is the next web element we wanted to mouse over onto, right? So what we'll do, we'll again store this web element into some web element object. And then we wanted to mouse over onto this automate as well. First, we wanted to, mouse over onto the products menu. Then we wanted to mouse over onto the next sub menu or the next web element, which is called automate, right? So again, what we need to do, use move to element. So it's a mouse over operation. And if you observe, we are actually doing a series of actions here. So earlier we used to use only one method and used to use build method, or we used direct perform method, right? So if you observe here, we are actually using two actions. These are called as series of actions. This is the reason we need to use the build method, as build method actually performs a composite action, right? Now see, we have move to element is a mouse over action onto the products menu, and move to element automate is another mouse over operation. See products, and I hovered on to automate. Now what I wanted to do, I just wanted to do a single click on this automate. So let's do that. Click dot click. Right, now let us execute this. So if you observe, so it didn't click automate. So let us see why. If you observe, we didn't use the perform operation here, perform method here. That's the reason it didn't actually perform this operation. So you have to use the perform method at the end of the series of actions. So this we need to remember. Now you can see it actually locates the products, and see it actually clicked on the automate, right? So this is how you need to automate mouse over actions. So always remember, whenever you are using actions object, so the object of actions class when we are using and performing mouse actions, so you can actually have the series of actions here. By using the methods, you can actually perform the series of actions, but at the end, do remember to actually use the perform method, which actually performs the respective mouse actions. So this is how we can actually perform the mouse over action. Right now, what we'll do is we'll see the next one. What's the next one? Drag and drop. For that, let me create a new class. I'll call the class as drag and drop action. Again, I copied the 3 lines. So we are setting Chrome driver to the Chrome executable, creating a driver object, web driver as a web driver object, and instantiating it to the Chrome driver class so that a Chrome browser window gets opened and we are maximizing the window. All right. Now what we'll do is we will navigate to some other URL. What is this? Drag and drop, right? So we will navigate to this URL, and you can see drag and drop here. So there are two boxes here. You can see drag me to my target. Click and hold this left side box, and you can drop it here wherever it says drop here. This is another big box, right? So drop it here. Just drop it here. See, this is what we call it as drag and drop. There is a source element whichever we are holding and wanted to move, right? That's called a source, and wherever you're dropping, that's called the target. So the left side box is called source here, and the right side box is called target. So this is what we call it as drag and drop. Now let us see how to automate this. We need to navigate to this URL first, right? So let's do that. All right, then we'll actually locate this elements, source and target. Source is the element to be dragged. You can see here we have the ID. So let's use ID this time. Driver dot find element and then by dot ID. We are going to use ID here. Draggable. I'm going to call this as source. We'll store it into a web element object. I'll call this as source. And then it has to be moved on or dragged and dropped down to the target. You can see drop here, right? Right side box. So let's locate that. You can see again, ID droppable. So we can store that in a web element and we'll name that as target, right? Web element. I'll call this as my target. So source has to be moved on to the target. So how do you do that? Again, we have to create an, this is common. We have to create an actions class object. Without this, you can't actually perform any mouse action, and pass the WebDriver object to the actions class, right? And then you can use the object dot. Now the method is drag and drop. See, drag and drop. You can see here, there are again two methods, drag and drop, source and target. And there is a drag and drop by, where we specify the source, and the other two parameters are x offset and y offset. We'll see that next. First, we'll see source and target. Source and target, right? Source is the actual source, which where we wanted to click and hold the box and drop it onto the second box in our example, right? That's called target. Dot, we have to do the perform, right? Only then the mouse action will be performed. I'm executing the code and you can see that now. So it has been dragged and dropped onto the target. So this is how you can actually drag and drop a source or an element onto a target. Now let us see another method, drag and drop by. So by, what it says, you have to specify the source, and this time you will not mention any target, but you do specify an x offset and y offset. So x offset and y offset is a coordinates, right? So for example, this is the source, right? So it has some coordinates, x-axis and y-axis. So it can be dropped down to anywhere in the on this web page, but you need to specify the correct x offset and y offset. So say for example, I say some 100 and 100. And let's say, for example, I don't use drag and drop method. I just wanted to look at how this drag and drop by method works. So we know the source, we specified the source, and we specified x offset and y offset. So if you see here, okay, sorry, mesh this perform method again. Yeah, see, it has been dragged and dropped here somewhere, right? So it actually moved 100 down. So as the y offset was 100, and you can see it has actually moved to the right. That means x offset, right? So x offset has moved 100 and y offset also it has moved 100. So it is below. So if you want this box to be moved to the top from the existing place, then you have to actually provide the negative y offset. And if you wanted to move the element to the left side, not to the right side, then you will provide a negative x offset. So I'll just show you this negative y offset. It has to move it to the top. See, it has moved it to the top. So this is how you can actually use the drag and drop method to actually, you know, drag the source object if you exactly know the coordinates x offset and y offset. Now, let me show you other methods. We have other methods, how this drag and drop actually work. I can show you here. You can see here, right? Read this documentation. A convenience method that performs click and hold. So how this is happening, drag and drop? It actually clicks and holds the source element at the location of the source element, moves by a given offset, and then releases the mouse, right? In the same way, when we use drag and drop, so you can see a convenience method that performs click and hold at the location of the source element, moves to the location of the target element, and releases the mouse. So it is internally doing three actions here. It is clicking and holding the source element. It is moving to the location of the target specified, and then it is releasing the mouse there. So three operations, right? So we can actually look into the three operations as well. So I'm going to show you that now, how this drag and drop is internally performed, right? Actions dot, you need to use click and hold. Click and hold is a method. Click and hold. What you wanted to click? So you wanted to hold the source element dot. Then what you wanted to do? You wanted to move it to somewhere, some location. That's called target dot. And then what you wanted to do? You wanted, once you are reached the target, you wanted to release the mouse, or you actually you're holding, right? Click and hold the source object, you moved it to the target, now you wanted to release it. So use the release method dot, finally perform method. So you can see here there are series of actions, three actions, right? I just commented this drag and drop and drag and drop by. Now let us see what happens. See, the source has been dragged onto the target. The same action which has been done when we use the drag and drop method. So this three series of actions is equivalent to one drag and drop method. So internally, this is how it is implemented. And in the same way, you can actually use the move. There is another method. I'm going to show you that actions dot click and hold. You click the source. All right. And how do you move by offset, right? Move by offset is a method which is the actual internal method used when we actually call the drag and drop by method. So move by offset, again, like you can specify any x offset and y offset here, then release it dot perform. So this is the equivalent of drag and drop by method. Only thing you need to know when you're using offset is you need to know the exact x offset and y offset where you wanted to drag the source object to. See, it has been dropped somewhere onto the web page, right? So according to the x offset and y offset we give, right? And for that, you need to use the move by offset. So again, these three actions together combined or performed when we are using the drag and drop by method, right? So these are the different mouse actions we can actually automate in using Selenium WebDriver. So just to reiterate what we did, we actually performed the right click, double click. We started with double click. We saw right click as well. For that, we use context click method. Then we saw mouse over action here, how to perform the mouse over action. And we also finally saw drag and drop action, right? And drag and drop by when you know the x offset and y offset and how drag and drop internally works, right? So that's all for this video. Thanks for watching.